In the small Tuscan village of Anciano, near the town of Vinci, a child was born on April 15, 1452, who would eventually redefine the boundaries of human potential. Leonardo was the illegitimate son of Ser Piero, a wealthy legal notary, and Caterina, a local peasant woman. Because of his illegitimate status, Leonardo was barred from traditional higher education. However, this exclusion proved to be a hidden blessing. It allowed his mind to remain untamed by rigid academic dogmas, forcing him to become a disciple of experience, developing a curiosity that would change the world. By the age of 14, his father secured him an apprenticeship in Florence, in the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, the leading artist of the day. This environment was a melting pot of creativity, where art intersected with chemistry, metallurgy, and carpentry. Leonardo learned the technical craft of creation. It is said that when Leonardo painted an angel, his skill so surpassed his master's that Verrocchio vowed never to paint again. In this vibrant atmosphere, the young Leonardo began to master the delicate balance between light and shadow, a technique that would later define his greatest masterpieces.
One of Leonardo's most revolutionary contributions to the world of art was the development of sfumato. This technique, derived from the Italian word for smoke, allowed colors and tones to blend into one another without perceptible transitions or harsh outlines. Leonardo understood that in the real world, there are no sharp lines. Everything is connected through atmosphere and light. By applying thin, translucent glazes of oil paint, he created a sense of depth and realism that had never been seen before. His subjects appeared to breathe, their expressions shifting depending on the angle of the viewer. This mastery of light was not just an artistic choice, but a scientific observation of how the human eye perceives reality. In 1482, seeking greater challenges and more ambitious projects, Leonardo left Florence for Milan. To secure the patronage of Duke Ludovico Sforza, he wrote a remarkable letter, presenting himself as a military engineer capable of designing armored vehicles, portable bridges, and indestructible cannons. He understood that in a time of constant warfare, utility was the path to power. Only at the very end of the letter did he mention that he could also paint as well as anyone else. The Duke was impressed, and Leonardo began a productive tenure in Milan that would see him transition from a mere artist to a visionary polymath.
Leonardo's hunger for knowledge led him to the gruesome but essential practice of human dissection. At a time when the inner workings of the body were a mystery, Leonardo performed over 30 autopsies in hospital morgues. He meticulously documented his findings, drawing the skeletal structure and muscular systems with surgical precision. He was the first to accurately describe the valves of the heart and the curvature of the spine. For Leonardo, art and science were inseparable. To paint a human figure accurately, he had to understand the mechanics beneath the skin. Commissioned by the Duke of Milan, The Last Supper remains one of the most famous paintings in history. Leonardo captured the exact moment Jesus announced a betrayal, creating a psychological drama rather than a static icon. Unfortunately, his experimentation with dry plaster caused the painting to deteriorate almost immediately. Despite its decay, the composition's balance and emotional depth continue to captivate millions, a testament to his narrative genius.
For over a decade, Leonardo worked on a colossal project for Ludovico Sforza, the Gran Cavallo, a bronze horse statue intended to be the largest in the world. He spent years studying the anatomy of horses, creating massive clay models and innovative casting techniques. It was meant to be his crowning sculptural achievement. However, fate intervened when war broke out with France. The 70 tons of bronze intended for the statue were diverted to manufacture cannons to defend the city. When the French invaded Milan in 1499, They used Leonardo's magnificent clay model for target practice, destroying it completely. This heartbreak was a recurring theme in Leonardo's life. Monumental visions left unfinished by the tides of history. Leonardo's notebooks, such as the Codex Atlanticus, reveal a mind that lived centuries ahead of its time. Within these pages, he sketched designs for flying machines, parachutes, scuba gear, and even a robotic knight. While many of these inventions remained on paper, modern engineers have proven that his designs were aerodynamically sound. He saw the world as a giant machine governed by mathematical laws. His sketches were not just fantasies, they were rigorous attempts to harness the forces of nature, wind, water, and gravity to serve the advancement of human capability.
After the fall of Milan, Leonardo returned to Florence as a celebrity. It was during this period, around 1503, that he began working on a portrait of Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a silk merchant. This painting, known as the Mona Lisa, would become the most famous work of art in existence. Leonardo took the painting with him everywhere, refined it for years, and never actually delivered it to the patron. What makes the portrait haunting is the Mona Lisa smile, achieved through his subtle use of sfumato. Her expression seems to change, mimicking the ambiguity of a living human soul. The artistic landscape of Florence was small, leading to a legendary and bitter rivalry between the aging Leonardo and the young, temperamental Michelangelo. While Leonardo was elegant and fascinated by the science of painting, Michelangelo viewed his slow pace and scientific distractions with disdain. In 1504, the two were commissioned to paint massive battle frescoes on opposite walls of the Palazzo Vecchio. This clash of the titans forced both men to push their limits. Leonardo's Battle of Anghiari was an explosion of motion and fury, but his experimentation with oil-based paints on a wall failed, and the work eventually vanished. This rivalry highlighted two different paths of the Renaissance, one of intellectual grace and the other of raw, muscular power.
To Leonardo da Vinci, the sky was not a limit, but a question. He watched the birds not with wonder alone, but with the analytical eye of an engineer, determined to unlock their secret. From these observations, he dreamed up the ornithopter, a machine designed to mimic the very essence of flight. Though never built, it was a leap of intuition into the principles of lift and drag. But Leonardo's curiosity was not confined to the air. He called water the cloak of nature, a substance of profound complexity and life-giving force. As a master hydrologist, he designed intricate canal systems and even proposed redirecting a major river, seeing water not as chaos, but as a force that could be understood and guided. His studies of floods and eddies were a philosophical quest, an attempt to mathematically chart life's fluid, ever-changing energy to find the order within the flow. For Leonardo, flight and flow were two sides of the same coin, a universal dance of forces, an eternal quest to understand the mechanisms of nature itself.
Perhaps no image represents the Renaissance better than Leonardo's Vitruvian Man. Based on the writings of the Roman architect Vitruvius, the drawing depicts a male figure, inscribed within both a circle and a square. This was Leonardo's attempt to solve the ancient problem of squaring the circle through human proportions. It symbolizes the belief that the human body is a microcosm of the entire universe. For Leonardo, the proportions of the body reflected divine order. In 1513, he moved to Rome under the protection of Giuliano de' Medici. However, his time in the Eternal City was bittersweet. While his younger rivals decorated the Vatican, Leonardo felt increasingly isolated. The Pope complained, "He never finishes anything." Despite the lack of commissions, this period was vital for his scientific reflections. as he delved deeper into the mysteries of optics and the properties of the sun's light.
In 1516, King Francis I of France invited Leonardo to join his court as the premier painter, engineer, and architect to the king. Leonardo accepted, crossing the Alps for the last time, carrying his notebooks and his beloved Mona Lisa. He was given the Chateau of Clos-Lucé. In France, Leonardo was treated as a revered sage. The young King Francis supposedly loved to talk with him, later saying that he did not believe any other man had been born who knew as much. He spent his final years organizing his notes, designing a visionary ideal city for the king, and continuing his studies of water. One of the most peculiar aspects of Leonardo's notebooks is his mirror writing. His scripts can only be read easily when held up to a mirror. For centuries, people speculated this was a secret code. However, the truth is likely more practical. Writing in reverse prevented his hand from smudging the wet ink. This habit illustrates his self-taught nature. He developed a system that worked for his unique physiology rather than conforming to the standards of the time.
After witnessing the devastation of the plague in Milan, Leonardo designed what he called the ideal city. Unlike the cramped, filthy streets of the Middle Ages, Leonardo envisioned a city built on multiple levels. The upper levels were for pedestrians and sunlight, while the lower levels featured canals and tunnels for waste removal and heavy transport. He understood that sanitation and airflow were the keys to public health centuries before the germ theory of disease was established. His sketches show a mastery of urban planning, prioritizing the dignity of human life. Leonardo's curiosity extended to the smallest leaf and the tallest tree. He was the first to record the laws of phyllotaxis, which describe how leaves are arranged on a stem to maximize exposure to sunlight and rain. He also discovered that the age of a tree could be determined by counting the rings in its cross-section. To Leonardo, a plant was not a static object but a living hydraulic system. He drew plants with the same anatomical rigor he applied to humans, seeking to understand the soul of the vegetation.
Many people forget that Leonardo first arrived at the court of Milan not as a painter, but as a talented musician. He was a master of the lyre and had a beautiful singing voice. He even designed his own musical instruments, including a silver lyre shaped like a horse's skull, which was said to produce a sound more resonant than any other. Leonardo believed that music was the shaping of the invisible, comparing the vibration of sound waves to the ripples in water. This deep connection to music influenced the rhythmic harmony found in his paintings and his scientific theories. Leonardo was a man of profound empathy, particularly toward animals. In an era where animals were viewed as mere tools, Leonardo was a strict vegetarian. He famously walked through the markets of Florence, buying caged birds just to set them free and watch the mechanics of their flight. He once wrote that the day would come when the murder of an animal would be viewed with the same condemnation as the murder of a human being. This moral stance was radical for the Renaissance, reflecting his belief that all living things share a common spark of divine energy.
Not every work by Leonardo has survived the passage of time. Several of his most ambitious projects are known to us only through copies made by other artists. The loss of these works creates a haunting void in his portfolio, leaving us to wonder how many other revolutionary ideas were lost over the last 500 years. When Leonardo died, he left his massive collection of notebooks to his loyal student, Francesco Melzi. Melzi spent his life protecting them. But after his death, the pages were scattered across Europe. Many were lost or stolen, while others were cut up by collectors. It wasn't until the 19th century that scholars began to realize the scientific weight of these papers. Today, these codices are among the most valuable documents in the world. They represent a paper brain, allowing us to step inside the mind of a man who was thinking about tanks, helicopters, and heart valves in the year 1500.
Leonardo's personal life was centered around his pupils, most notably Gian Giacomo Caprotti. nicknamed Salai, or Little Devil, and Francesco Melzi. Salai was a difficult and often dishonest youth, yet Leonardo remained devoted to him for over 20 years, using him as a model for many paintings. Melzi, on the other hand, was a refined nobleman who became Leonardo's surrogate son and secretary. These relationships provided Leonardo with the emotional stability he needed. Through their eyes, we see a Leonardo who was not just a cold genius, but a kind and patient mentor. On May 2, 1519, at the age of 67, Leonardo da Vinci passed away. A popular legend claims that King Francis I held Leonardo's head in his arms as he took his final breath. While historians debate the literal truth of this story, it perfectly captures the immense respect the king had for the artist. Leonardo was buried in the chapel of Saint Hubert, but his remains were disturbed during the French Revolution. Today, his tomb remains a place of pilgrimage for those who wish to honor the man who defined the spirit of human inquiry.
Strangely, for nearly 3 centuries after his death, Leonardo was remembered primarily as a great painter who never finished his work. His scientific achievements were largely forgotten because his notebooks remained unpublished and hidden in private libraries. It was only during the Industrial Revolution that engineers looked at his sketches and realized he had anticipated their inventions. Every time we see a helicopter rotor spin or a tank move, we are seeing the realization of a seed planted by Leonardo in his notebooks over 5 centuries ago. In 2001, a bridge designed by Leonardo for the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, which was rejected as impossible, was finally built in Norway. It proved his calculations were perfect. We now realize that he wasn't just ahead of his time. He was living in a future that the rest of the world has only recently caught up with.
In the field of medicine, Leonardo's anatomical drawings remain a marvel of accuracy. Modern heart surgeons have used his sketches of the aortic valve to develop new surgical techniques. He was the first to understand how the heart actually functions as a pump, moving blood through the body. Unlike his contemporaries, who relied on ancient texts, Leonardo relied on what he saw with his own eyes. This commitment to empirical observation is the foundation of the modern scientific method. He taught us that to heal the body, we must first be brave enough to look inside it and understand its intricate clockwork. In 2017, a painting titled Salvator Mundi, attributed to Leonardo, became the most expensive work of art ever sold, fetching $450 million at auction. The painting depicts Christ holding a crystal orb, symbolizing the world. However, its authenticity remains a subject of intense debate among experts. Some believe it is entirely by Leonardo's hand, while others suggest it was largely painted by his assistants. Regardless of the verdict, the astronomical price tag reflects the world's obsession with Leonardo. The mere possibility that a new Da Vinci has been found is enough to send the global art market into a frenzy of wonder.
From the hills of Tuscany, a mind began to wonder, what if the world was more than it seemed? He saw no walls between art and science, only a single unified reality waiting to be understood. In his art, he captured the mystery of human emotion, secrets hidden in a smile, waiting to be discovered. He didn't just dream, he designed, he experimented, he dared to imagine a world beyond limits. His legacy is a call to action, to observe, to question, and to never stop wondering. The journey continues every time we dare to dream